it's so easy to see. It is very predictable at this point. And then I found, and this is something I did not get to run by you. I wanted to run like a half an hour by you, but really there was only maybe about 5 minutes that would have been really important clip. And I'll toss this YouTube up as well for whoever wants to watch the whole thing. But in 2015, there was an international conference for New World Order in Malaysia. And the opening was the Prime Minister of Malaysia. And man, did he give a spectacular speech on New World Order. Scary, definitely not for it. And he lays out why. But about 35 minutes in, he hits on the depopulation agenda. And he says it. This is what he talks about where we are and where they want to go and how they're going to put people in their graves. This was in 2015.
Around the same time, I mean, I got to give the guy credit, right? Alex Jones, man, he was talking about a lot of this stuff. I'm not like a fanboy of Alex Jones. He and I have had a on-off relationship, but I give credit where it's due, man. He's been talking about this a long time. It's really something.
Okay, so good. I'm glad you brought that up. Think about it. You have somebody like Alex Jones who's polarizing, and he comes out and starts talking about this stuff, and they say, "Conspiracy theorist, you're crazy." So the more you normalize the fact that it's crazy, by the time it rolls around where it's becoming a reality, it's too late.
Too late. It's too late.
It's too late. So that's why they do that. They put this stuff out there so that you start to view those types of people as tinfoil hat wearing crazy people. And you don't want to associate with, you don't want to ever quote Alex Jones. Oh my gosh, if I point to Alex Jones, people won't listen to me. They're going to shut down.
Well, I mean, okay, I understand that. And when the Young Bucks here said, man, when Alex got to deplatform on a lot of the platforms almost overnight, you can tell it was definitely, they're all in on it together. They said, wow, he really fucked up. I said, no. See, this is where the wisdom comes in, boys. Mm-hmm. I tell them, they're worried about him. They're worried about a guy like that. That's why he got the platform. It's not for anything he said or anything he did. It's about what they have planned coming down the pike, and they want to take that. And you know what? And I equate this to a chess game. I know it sounds perhaps insane to people, but I see this as a chessboard. They want to take him off the chessboard because they have plans for future moves. And one of the moves is to get rid of a guy like him and anybody else we're finding out, right, who could be a dissenting opinion and have a large platform. That's what he got removed because of what's going on now. Not having to do anything he said previously. It's what he would have the possibility of saying in the future and the people he could have influenced. That's why he got deplatformed.
I look at it a little tad differently.
Yeah, go ahead.
When we look at situations like this, whenever somebody's deplatformed, it's major news. Just had it happen with Project Veritas. They come out with a video, 1, 2, 3, instantly, they're censored. That's the big structure, is the censorship. But what happens? Everybody finds them because they find another platform to speak from. But they've created problem, reaction, solution. They created the censorship epidemic, the problem. But these people don't go away. We know Alex went and did banned video. So you can find them. Project Veritas.
Right,
you could go to their website. You could find them. These people are not gone. But what is out there, loud and proud, is oh my goodness, they've been censored, they've been deplatformed, and then it causes the mass hysteria of the censorship, because that's where they want you focused, not so much the information. they really always want us focused in different directions, while all of the meat and potatoes is going on behind the scenes. Like if I've ever watched, people like Alex Jones or whatever, and I follow so many really, really good people out there, I go find the information. I go find the documents, because at least it doesn't have to be who the messenger is. But if you can put your hand on what they're talking about and serve that up to the public, because they will shut down if you say this person said, boom, they're out, they're done. They don't want to hear it.
Right.
But if you serve up these documents without a name attached to it, at least it's getting out there. So I do appreciate these people for what they put out there, as long as I could find it and look at it. But I think the whole censorship brouhaha is designed. It is designed as bread and circuses to keep us focused on that. But meanwhile, we all know where we can find these people. Everybody that's going to get booted from YouTube, we're going to find them. Whether it be Patreon, Subscribestar, or their own platforms, whatever they do. Well, there's somebody now who's been very clever. He's been doing pirate videos through other people's channels, kind of like whack-a-mole. But I know where to find him. Go right to his website. I don't even have to chase him down. Go right to the website. The videos are there. Almost everybody I like has their own website.
It has to be done. I mean, I've talked to some young journalists behind the scenes, and I'm not talking about people that are young. I mean, they just started in journalism. They want some tips. I've tried to take as much time as I can for these people. Once we vet them, and they're not maniacs, You never know I never know who's recording me or who's,
That's right.
I mean, we get all sorts of inappropriate correspondences from people, and you never know who's trying to set somebody up, or whatever is going on. But but you try to talk to people and say, you got to have your own shop. You cannot depend on these people. These third party platforms, they are not they're not the future, and you're going to have to.
And the good people do build their own.
Yeah.
They've built their better mousetraps, and we do know where to find them. And why it's the equivalent is why should I eat in your restaurant if you don't want to serve me as an unvaxxed person? Well, why do I want to put my business on your YouTube? You don't want me here anyway. Why should you benefit from the ad revenue? Blah, 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 blah. Then you build your own better. Get a couple people together and build something together. You could go around anything you could go around. But the good people we're always going to find.
We are at a massive disadvantage, though, as far as being, I've told this to journalists, and as far as being, some people want me to come and give speeches at places. Like, can you imagine me giving a speech after the 23rd F-bomb? They yanked me off the stage. I told one guy, I gave a speech, but the people in the audience, I'm going to light them up like a Christmas tree, because they're part of the problem. See, that they're paying you to have these things. And so if you want me to come and really lay it on the line, I'll come. And you never hear back from those people. I would say, why? What are you people doing here paying these people
right
at this conference? Have you lost your mind? Nobody at this conference is worth paying to hear in the first place. You know what I mean?
And a lot of these conferences are just, they're selling hopium. They're just keeping people engaged. And again, this week I went through other people that I know that are in the industry and going to, some of these conferences or interviewing politicians. And I keep saying, until you can ask the questions I laid out for you, and that's where you're going to get your answers, because they're not going to be able to answer. But at that level, when you ask the questions I want you to ask, you will be ostracized. You will never be invited back.
That's the point.
That is the point.
You get one shot.
Say to a politician, okay,
you get one speech.
Right. If you say to one of these politicians, up and coming, new, these 2020 to 2024, aspiring politicians, and you say to them, okay, what can you tell me about the global agenda? What powers do you think you possess that could break the hold of globalism? Do you believe America first and a sovereign country is possible? Ask them the hard questions, because it's not possible. Not what we're tied into. It's not possible. So if these people don't even either, one, know what you're talking about, or two, don't have an answer for you, you're going to put them on the spot that they're not going to be able to tell you that they don't have any magic up their sleeve to break the grips of globalism. And if you ask those questions and you're trying to be an up and coming in the political arena, you will be ended before you begin. So I do understand these folks that are aspiring, but I keep telling them in reality, it's going nowhere. These people are going nowhere because nobody ever asked them the hard-hitting questions, and they're not going to answer them. And elections mean nothing at that point, because if you're just going to keep on promising what's always promised, which is hope, hope that we're going to this or we're going to that, or this lawsuit is going to miraculously fix all of our problems. No, it's not. They're not going to be able to answer you. And that's that you're not going to want to go down that route. Something came out the other day, and I was communicating with one of these folks, and I said, this happens in the political operative and influencer world. That's where all the troublemakers are. Now, there could be some good politicians out there on the fringes, but if they don't know what we're talking about, like if you just throw around the word globalism, we don't know what it means to them. We don't know how deep their knowledge is. And are they young and naive to where they don't realize that even if they climb the ladder and they are groomed and donors start putting money behind them, that whatever they are promising you, they will not be able to fulfill. And these are just the questions that, I want answered. They're never going to get answered. Like, I have people send me videos, can you watch this? I did this interview. And I'm like, oh God, I can't. I want to stick pins in my eyes. This is a half an hour that I'm just going to listen to hopes and dreams, or you people are clueless. You have no idea what is going on behind the scenes. You are all living on the surface. And that's really where they want everyone. They don't ever want anybody to know what's coming. And what's coming is not good. We know
it's already here for the most part.
Yes, here. We are in, like I tell people, we are in the middle. We're in the middle of it. It's already been laid. I kind of chunk it down for people. Like when I'm really talking to people in DM, I'll be like, listen, think of it this way. The first reset in recent history is 9/11. Look at all the transformational change that came out of 9/11. 20 years later, here we are again. And this time, they are moving that train full steam ahead. But again, we had things in the works from the 70s, even the 50s, you could go back. But it's taken them a long time. They're getting closer and closer and closer to achieving their goals. But many people, imagine, like I said, going to one of your friends on the other side of the aisle and ask them what they know about biometrics or living on the blockchain, or what's the purpose of the blockchain and what are they doing with your data. They're not going to know how to answer you.
Well,
because these are terms that they've never even really heard of.
I agree with you 100% because I've had conversations, and then I finally just say, look, because they start getting uppity, you know what I mean, about what they know. And I said, look, We're out to have a good time. You have two choices. I can make you look stupid right now, real fast, or we can let the night progress, and I'll insult you, as I usually do, with my one-liners and cut-downs. And why don't we just keep it that way? Why do you want to get your ass kicking started early? It's not even really I mean, it's like these folks, they don't have any facts because they all get it from the same fucked up data bank of
all
liars.
They have to do is show a little interest. Like I'm really easy because my links, I could pull up a link in 30 seconds. Like, it's like somebody asks me for something, boom, I know where to find it. You're going to get it. But when I get those folks that reach out that are really at the beginning of some things, I just give them very quickly 2010 Rockefeller Foundation lockstep. Then I give them SPARS. Then I give them event. Cladex, event, Crimson Contagion, Cygnus. I just send them all those links and say, watch them. And then click the links because there's written documents with the links. Read all of this. And then come back to me with questions. But until you see it with your own eyes, till you watch a tabletop with key government players playing out a pandemic, and then in one of them, they're saying we are now in nationalized healthcare. And that was, I think, in 2018, that tabletop was. You say, they're not playing around here, people. You know, they're not just dressing up as simulation Barbie and Ken. These are government people playing a role of reimagining society through these, what did Rahm Emanuel say? Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Well, they create the crisis.
As they always do, by the way.
They always do.
Then they swoop in with what they think is a solution, and then they fuck things up even more.
Exactly. But most people wouldn't even see it coming. When I think back to where my brain was on 9/11, was probably with most of the country, I would assume. But the more I learned through the years, and I watched one of the most fabulous put-togethers from James Corbett. He had put a really great video together with all of the simulations that were going on that very day. When you start really studying this stuff, you're just like, oh my gosh. I mean, the more we find, the scarier it becomes. And if somebody on the other side just showed a little bit of critical thinking to say, listen, I'll entertain you. What could you show me that can make me understand what you're talking about? Put a little effort in, because I am that person. Like, if I was totally wrong about something and you or anybody in the community sent something to me, I will, with open mind, look at it. And believe me,
right.
If you can move me off my mountain, then I'll become the biggest cheerleader for what I just learned and say, oh my gosh, you know, I did it with Trump. I cheerleaded for Trump for up until December 2018, January 19. I pulled back. I didn't go crazy, but I did pull back, and I kept researching. But I dedicated a lot of my life to being a massive cheerleader. So when I feel I'm wrong, or my gut is telling me, uh-oh, you're wrong, you need to really look at this and put these two and two together over here, I'll change my mind. I'm open to it.
I think most people, you talked about earlier about intelligent people not falling for this. That has nothing to do with PhDs and things like that, as far as I'm concerned, or learned degrees. It just has to do with the fact that you're smart. There's all different types of smart. There's street smart, there's book smart, and there's just folks who generally get it because they can
DNA,
look at.
Yeah, there's DNA gut smart. You're either born with it or you're not. So you're absolutely right. I think it's just, if you're a skeptic by nature, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, I think we've been trying to convey this message to your audience, to question everyone, everything. Just because someone has a degree does not mean they're smart, does not mean they're right.
Well, some of the most fantastic developments and creations that we have in the world were because folks were skeptic and they kept pushing and questioning things. And I mean, that's how science used to work before you just made it up.
That's right. You know, I watched, you played Terry Mullis last week.
Yeah, Mullis.
I love that you did that because it's one of my favorite clips of him. But I did find a TED Talk that he did, and it was really great. He's a great speaker. He's a lot of fun to watch. It's really sad that he died of pneumonia right before COVID. Knock, knock, pneumonia.
You can't, it's like, you know.
but anyway.
We should do a true crime podcast on all the folks who have just vanished. It's worth a podcast in itself.
Yeah. But what was really interesting is he talked about being a young boy interested in science, and he didn't know why he knew certain things, like he was inquisitive. And what was really sad is the way he explained it, that as a little boy in the 50s, late 50s.
Growing up on a farm, his parents were like, shut up, kid. I don't know if you know that. No. But what he was saying was that the parents, well, the people back then, because we were in the race to the moon with Russia and all that, he was saying how the people, he was saying everything he did today, you would get arrested. What he did in his backyard or with his friends was building a rocket ship. And they worked on it all summer. And it was considered patriotic. And like he could go down to the store, and the hardware store guy would sell him the dynamite, what do you call it, fuse. And who would, from the school, would get him the chemicals that he needed. It was like a community project. They were boys being boys. They were considered patriotic. And today the FBI would swoop in and arrest you. Say you're trying to blow up a bridge or something.
Exactly. And that's what he was trying to say about science, that you don't learn it in a book. You learn it by doing. And by the end of the summer, he tells the story how they created a rocket that went miles high in the sky with a little frog attached to it with a parachute. And there was a chemical in sugar. And the story is hysterical, the way he tells the story. But they did it. And the neighbors, and somebody must have called the police because they were afraid it was going to land on a roof. And when they turned around this one day, like the police officer was standing there, and he's like, you boys really should go down to that sand ditch over there. And like, he was helpful, like, go do this over here, don't do this in the neighborhood. Whereas today, like you said, these boys would be in trouble, locked up, juvenile delinquents. Parents would have to come and get them for using their brains and wanting to create. In fact, there was a book written, I think, in the early 90s that I always recommend parents, because I was screening from the 90s, because that's when I had my son. And it's called Real Boys. And it talks about...
We got that one here, believe me.
Let me tell you.
That's one of my wife's favorite books.
It is one of mine, because of what they were trying and have done successfully is change boys. And boys
Maria, I told my wife, you don't need that book. They got me. Whatever's in that book, times it by 10, and that's me. We're going to have real boys. She, the one time, funny story, and I didn't want to interrupt, but I just want to throw this out.
No, fine.
We got rid of a bed or something, and there was a mattress. She's like, can you take this up to the curb? And then the garbage people pick this up like once a month. They come, they pick big stuff up. I called them. They said they'll take it. I said, what the hell are you talking about? This is a queen-size mattress. We can't throw this out. And she said, what are you going to do with it? I said, don't worry about
Russell.
it. I said, put it in the backyard every night after dinner. We're out there. I'm kicking their asses. They're like, I don't know. They were like maybe 4 and 7 every night. Oh, you going to wrestle after dinner, Dad?
Yeah.
And then it went on for about 3 weeks until it rained.
And then it's time for it to go.
And then the boys were like, we can't, the springs are coming through, Dad. It's wet. Let's take it up to the curb. And then I told my wife, now it can go to the curb. Now it's going to go to the curb. We've wrestled the hell out of it. And I mean, come on, man. Boys got to be boys.
They have to be boys. And what they've tried to do, and they have succeeded, is stifle boys. And that's why that book is very much appreciated in the homeschool communities, because we knew, these boys need to run, and they need to have, look what the schools did. They took away kickball and this and that. You could get hurt and you could get sued and all these crazy things. Boys need to roughhouse. They need to climb trees. They need to they need to do that. Leave them alone. You keep stifling these boys. You are giving them the pent up energy. And we see what they're doing now with all children. They keep leading them down the road of psychology, of are you depressed? And, they're building depression among children and young teens and young adults.
Well, you can treat it perpetually with medication. You got them hooked for life.
You got the medication, but what I'm saying is you're a man. Okay, and you were once a boy, but you look at boys.
I'm still
for the
a
past
boy.
30 years.
I'm still a boy.
You're a child.
I am.
But imagine. Let's go back to young Mike. Imagine young Mike being raised through the 90s onward, and all of that energy or anger is pent up. Year after year after year, you're being bullied, or this or that. In my parents' generation, and we know this, you were taught to defend yourself. And it was, don't come home if you lost. You better defend yourself. My parents were raised that way, and I was raised that way. Now, by my son's generation, you try telling your parents, well, we can't do that. The handbook says you have to be hit 3 times before you can retaliate.
Hit 3 times? Jesus Christ.
Now, you already have the story of my father, 83 years old, okay? Now, imagine him. Me telling him this. He's looking at me like I have 4 heads, because I'm telling him what's in the handbook. Now, not that I advised my son of that. What I advised my son of was, you do what you have to do, and I will always be there to have you back. And if that doesn't work, you will be homeschooled, which he was homeschooled, but not for that reason. But I'm saying many parents are in this position that your child could be bullied or what have you, and they're not allowed to defend themselves. And then I learned, and this didn't happen in my day, that if there was a fight on school premises, it was always handled by the principal or the vice principal or the gym coach. Maybe your parents were called, maybe. Nowadays, oh no. First called is the police, then the parent. And you could have a child with a mugshot. I've seen it. It's insanity. They're building little criminals. It's like you're in 3rd grade and you hit somebody. Next thing you know, it's on your permanent record and you're in major trouble. And yes, the police do come to the school, and the parent is called second. Unheard of in my time, your time, my parents' time. Unheard of.
Yeah, well, these school you see how fast these school administrators are selling people out again. It's unbelievable.